Welcome back to my channel Testing Many Bytes. I'm your friend Amlan Shaktivel. This is one of the important videos while you want to learn about Playwright. Playwright has its own unique set of locators which can be used to identify the elements. If you are coming from Selenium background, the locators used in Playwright might look little awkward at first, but believe me, these are some of the best way to identify an element so that you are actually mimicking how a real user would interact with your application. We will dive deep into each of these locators, and I'm excited to speak them about. So let's go to the locators page in Playwright, and we want to cover all these locators in this particular video, and I'm going to give you a lot of very good examples so that you could understand why these locators are recommended Playwright, and why do we really want to use them, right? So the first locator that we want to cover is get by role, and to demonstrate all of these locators, I'm going to play with a couple of websites, and one among them is the open source Orange HRM demo website. Um, and the first thing is get by role, right? So for example, let's say you want to identify this element username. Uh, what we do in Selenium is basically we go here and then we see if there is an ID attribute. If ID attribute is not there, then we will try to identify it by name attribute, that is username, right? So this is what we do. But imagine none of the let's say this name attribute is ABCD123. It doesn't matter, the Selenium script is going to find it, the Playwright script is going to find it. But imagine a real user will not interact with this application with the help of this name attribute at all. How they know they want to enter their username here? So the one main thing is they know this is a text box, and it has a placeholder called as username, right? So this is how they're going to interact with the application here. Or the other way is they see a label here username, they see a text here username, and there is a text box beneath it, so they want to enter their username here. But the easiest and most optimistic way of finding this element is there is a placeholder text here to find the element, and that's why people know they have to enter their username here, and that's what we are going to do. So let's go here, and let's go to the IntelliJ. For example, I'm going to create a new file. Let's call it as login or locators .spec.ts. And here I want to have a, like, let's not do all that. So let's do Playwright test, and let's import all these things, right? So now let's call it as let's say locators test whatever, or locators demo for this thing. And if you notice here, this is a simple test block that I'm going to have, and it has this picture page, and I'll cover that in detail. But for now, what we want to do is we want to launch the website that is this. So I'm going to do that, and uh, and by default, all these things are asynchronous operation, and you want to await for them. So if let's say if you're writing three commands without await, what it does is it executes, it fires the events and goes to the next step. We don't want to do that. We want to wait for the page to load, and then proceed with other stuff. That's why we want to await for this particular asynchronous task. Now await, and then what I want to do is I want to find an element, and this time I want to use get by role, right? So there are a lot of roles for the element. So element can be a text box, it can be a checkbox, it can be a button, it can be a heading. So there are a lot of options here. If you want to know what are the different available um, roles, so you can go here and see it. So alert dialog, application, article, banner. So there are a bunch of you know, roles defined, right? You could use any of them. For example, you want to wait for heading, you want to wait for form, image. So you could do all of these, right? So but in our case, we are going to wait for text box, right? And then um, you can directly find this, but the problem is there are two text boxes, and let's see what it does. So I want to enter some value into this. So let's say admin. So let's try to run the test and see what's happening. So if you want to run the test, you have to execute npx playwright test, and I want to see the test happening, right? So that's why I want to run it in headed mode. And what is the folder where my file is present? This is locators, right? So locators.spec.ts. So now it runs this file, runs the test inside this file. So it launches the app, and it says some error. It says the locator that you are using now is resolved to two elements. By default, Selenium will interact with the first element that is present on the top of the DOM, but Playwright doesn't do that. It says, hey, there is two elements. I do not know which one to interact. Maybe you should find a unique way of identifying this element. And that's when so if you notice here, it says you can use, it also suggests you can use get by placeholder of username, get by placeholder of password to distinguish these two elements. And I could find these two elements, in the DOM. I do not know which one to operate. Either you use this or use this, uniquely find the element. In our case, you can do a lot of things, right? So first thing is you can also do first, which means if there are multiple elements, pick the first one among them, right? So that means it'll pick the username. You can also say last one, and then you can also say, let's say there are 10 elements and you want to pick the third element. You can also say nth of 2, nth of 3. You can use nth index based stuff like how we do in XPath. You can also do similar stuff here, but we will try to avoid this first, last, nth based index as much as possible, because we have other unique ways to find this element. So how we'll do that? So this get by role also has another parameter where you can pass, whether you can checked, boolean, and all that. But there is one of them here, that is name, which is string or regular expression you can pass. So what I can do is I add name, and I want to find it using username, right? And let's see, by default it's case insensitive, so it will find it. uh, so yeah, you can say like this, and let's try to run the test again. So if you notice, the test have actually passed, which means it entered a correct value. If you want to see the execution, you can also do page wait for timeout, and then let's say you want to wait for 3000 seconds, right? And guys, like if you use underscore, it is applicable to most of the languages. Let's say if you're running something like this, it may be very difficult to understand, okay, what is this number? If there are even more zeros, it will be very confusing, right? So that's why I prefer, whenever there is a need, I prefer writing like this, so we know exactly how much seconds it is. So that is some of the ways how we could identify this element. Now apart from this, so this is the main way how you could find an element: get by role, text box, and username is the name of the text box. The other way is you could find it using, right? Let's say, instead of this, you could do get by placeholder, because there is a placeholder attribute that has username in it, right? So let's remove all this, and then, so if you go here, you can see there is a placeholder attribute of username, and you can find the element using that. Again, I'm gonna run the test here to check if it actually works. Yeah, so it actually have worked. So now, instead of this, let's say this is username. If you don't want this to be case sensitive, sometimes in one environment it is username, in one environment it is username in small letters. So you don't want this to be case sensitive. In those cases, you can also use regular expressions, something like this. So now what it does is, it will try to look for a placeholder of username. So containing username. Okay, if the placeholder is username 123 or username 234, it will find all of that. Let's say if you want this to be also case insensitive, you can also add I here, or no, you can do something like I means case insensitive, like it won't consider the cases. Okay, so even if you run the test now, it will obviously pass. So you can apply this regular expression logic anywhere. Like I hope you all know how to use the regular expression, but then you could use anywhere. Like if you want to find the element using here also you could use let's say instead of this, you could also do regular expression. You could remove this and then you can use something like this, right? And then you can add case sensitiveness and all that. So you can use regular expression anywhere. You could also do real regular expression like D for digits, spaces for percentages and all that. So you could do all that. And now we have covered a couple of locators, and then let's go to the third locators. So we have covered role, and then we have also covered placeholder. There is also get by text, which is very easy, which is what we actually do, right? So let's say if you see, okay, I want to find an element, I want to find the button login with the text of, right? So the appropriate locator for this is page dot get by role, and then button, and if you notice here, name, and here I want to use login, right? Because this button will have some spaces in it. Okay, I don't want to, so there is a space in front of it, and after that I don't want to bother about all that, so I just simply want to find the element by it. And then there is something called as forgot password. If you go here, this is a poor implementation actually, because um, this is a link, right? So links must have a tag and then href, which navigates you to a different page or whatever. But in this case, it is forgot your password. So I'm going to find this using a text. So what I can also do is wait page dot get by text, right? You are going to find it by text, and this is the text. And what I want to do, I want to click on it. So you can do that, something like this. Or let's say you don't want to worry about the spaces and all that, so you can remove all this and keep it, right? So you can find this like this, and right, you can go ahead and yeah, run the test. Obviously it all will work, right? So it went to this page, all looks good. So now coming back to the other locators that we have. So I'll come to the get by label, which is interesting at the end. But before that, there is alt text and title and test ID. Let's see about this. So alt text is something, let's say you have some kind of logo here. Let's inspect this and see what's happening. So let's go and check some of the logos, images. So if you notice, this is company branding, right? That's the alt. So there is an alt attribute that has company branding. So let's say you want to, you cannot click it basically, right? Because clicking it will not do anything. So what you can do is you can basically, expect, which means it's like asserting, right? So page dot um, get by alt text, right? And then you want to check whether this is to be visible, right? You're going to do all this. And apart from this, there is also title. If there is a title attribute, you could directly use them. Again, guys, if you have followed all my videos, there is a Selenite playlist where we have used by text, with text, by placeholder, with placeholder, and all that. So which is what exactly we are doing here, right? Um, so yeah, and then the test ID is the unique attribute that you can add to your locators. For example, let's say this element, right? So this element here, you want to add a unique attribute. What you can do is edit as HTML, and then obviously you want to add this in the front end frameworks. What people can do is they can add data hyphen test ID equal to, let's say this is forgot uh, password, whatever. So they can customize this based on their requirements. Once you do this, okay, this you can find this element using this data hyphen test ID of forgot password. So if your application has some kind of test IDs, you can also use them, right? Now coming back to the area label or the get by label is one of the important attributes which I highly recommend you to use it. For example, let's say if you go to the Google page, as a user without any accessibility needs, I can find these elements easily, right? I have no visual impairments. I can find these elements easily. But let's say if someone needs some accessibility tools in order to access them, what they do is, in case of mobile, they will press tab in their screens, okay? And then what it does is it changes the it actually reads it for them. It says this is Gmail, so this is images, this is something else, this is search labs, right? So this has to be done by somebody, right? So, and that is that particular attribute. So let's say if I go and inspect this Gmail here, there is an area label as Gmail opens a new tab. So if somebody is, if this is highlighted, it'll make a sound, Gmail opens a new tab. So people will actually realize, okay, then double tap to click it, or press your mouse to click it, and all that. So now they know, using this label attribute only, these people will identify this element. So these will have meaningful names, okay? So it is important, if your apps are not supporting, for example, this orange HRM doesn't support any area labels, which means people might find it difficult to access some elements. For example, the username and password has a placeholder, they don't face any issues. For login button also, they don't face any issues, but there may be some other elements they might find difficult to interact with. So that's the reason it is important to have area labels in your attributes, so that you could use them. For example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this Gmail using area label. So let's go here, and let's add Playwright test, and let's skip this for now. And let's say this is area label, and here I say wait, page dot go to https and await page dot get by label, right? And here I'm going to find the label search for images, right? Or if you, let's say, if you inspect this, you have search for images, and then if you search for this, it has search labs as the area label. So get by label, and I want to click on it. Let's see what happens. Me run the test. It loaded the Google. Okay, it also opens the page, but then it was too fast, I couldn't see it. So wait for timeout, and then I add 3000 now. Yeah, if you notice, it clicked on that, and it was too fast. Okay, anyways, so this is how you identify an element using get by label. If your application doesn't support any of that, please ask your developers to add them, or I will make a video on how to add these kind of locators. If you are interested in knowing all these things, let me know in the comment section. I can create one video about it. Now, apart from this, you can always find the element using CSS selectors. Let's say you want to find an element using CSS selectors. You can say page.locator, and then you could say input placeholder, whatever, right? Called, and then you can say username, right? This is how we write the CSS selectors, right? You can also do that. And then if you want to also, like, you can also append them with CSS equal to something like this, but then it is not needed. It's just a verbose thing. But let's say if you want to find an element using XPath, you could also do something like this, right? This is also possible, and this will obviously work. Okay, I don't have to write it for you guys, but then it also works. There are other bunch of locators that you could try. For example, the I will come to this hash text and all that, but there is right off, left off, stuff like that, which I want to cover if possible. All right, sorry, left. Yeah. So this is this is the another bunch of locators. For example, in the page here, I mentioned you user. So people might also see the username label here, and then beneath it, they want to find the first text box and then click on it, right? Let's assume there is no placeholder here. What they do, they see the label, and then by they will do it implicitly. Okay, they want to enter the username beneath it, which is very close to it, right? And in those cases you could also write the locators. For example, I cannot write it the seeing it, but then there are good examples here which we can use. For example, I could copy this particular locator from here and then go to all the way top, and I say page.locator. I want to get the input tag which is present to the right of text username. Okay, and then I want to fill value to it. Let's comment out all the remaining stuff and see what's happening. And this time I will mark this as only, so this execute this particular test. Right, enters admin. Okay, this one is okay, but this one doesn't really work, right? So what I can do is bottom off. I can use bottom off and then see what happens. It says it's not a valid selector. Input colon bottom off. It's not a valid selector. Why is that? Um, let's copy the locators here. Use similar locators. Um, let's see, this is an input tag. Okay, this is an input tag, correct? And then there is also a text here. Let's say this is username. Let's go here. Input colon bottom of text of username. This should work. I actually tried it in my own project and it worked, but it's not working now. Let's see what we are doing wrong. Okay, guys, I found the issue that I had. So this is little strange because they have right off, left off, but for above, they just use above, not off. And for I used bottom, but actually this should be below. So the naming is little different and odd. So I assumed it should be bottom, but then it's actually below and without hyphen off. So that's the reason it didn't work. And now I replace the bottom hyphen off with below. So now if I run the test, um, it finds, it shows a different issue now because let's say this particular element here, below this there are two input boxes, right? So that's why it wrote an error. And in this case, what I can do is obviously I could use first and then I could use it to fill it, right? Now this should actually work. So again, guys, don't use any of these. If you have a better way, if you think these are all available in your code, please use these to find the element. Again, you can also use the similar order. I prefer get by role as much as possible, then get by label and get by placeholder before considering any other locators. So I'll also suggest you to use the same things. I know this video is a little long, but I hope this will be useful if you want to get started with your Playwright automation. I'll see you guys in another great video. Until then, Tata bye bye from Mugundan. Bye bye, guys.